Hey guys, Tepco Cycle Repair, and I got something cool on the bench right here. It's a go-kart, and it's not cool because it's a go-kart, it's cool because it's a shifter go-kart, and it's got a CR125 engine on it. Got a couple things I got to do on this engine. Let's check it out. Alright, so this thing's pretty neat. It's been modified to have this shifter engine on it. It's a 99 CR125 engine is what I'm told. So right now he's having problems. He needs a clutch, and he's also has the water pump is leaking. So I got a bunch of parts for that. It should be pretty simple. It's kind of hanging out of the side right here. I'm going to knock it out. There's a couple things I got to get off out of the way that's added on because of the application here. But first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drain the coolant out of here. Coolant's going to drain out of here. I'm going to put the go-kart up on a couple stands on this side so it leans the other way. And I shouldn't have to worry too much about draining the oil out of there. But I'm going to dump the oil and change it anyway. So I guess it really doesn't matter. So that's about it. Let me get some fluids out of this thing so we can start working on it. Oof. Bearings in pieces right there. There's part of the cage right there. All right. Well, you have to get a new bearing. Here's some bearings laying in the bottom. All right. So with the cover off, the clutch is sitting here real easy. We got to take these 10 millimeters off here. Now, if you're doing just the clutch, because we're doing the water pump, I have the whole side case cover off. But if you're doing just the clutch, you can just take the cover off that says Honda on it. Ooh, that one was loose. All right, so with all the bolts and springs out, we can take the pressure plate on the outside off. Right, so this is the push rod is behind this right here. So make sure this doesn't fall out. All right, you got to so just make sure that that doesn't go anywhere. And then the whole clutch, you can take the whole clutch pack out as one. So we're going to take the whole thing. I'm going to just get behind it, pull this whole thing out. This is one whole unit. All right. So now we have the whole clutch pack right here. I got all the clutch fibers and all the metals in between. I'm replacing everything. So here's our metals and our fibers all in one. All right, everything is out of the way. Remember, the last one shows be a fiber, and the first one shows be a fiber. All right, so with the new clutch, I have them soaking in a bag with some oil. Same crankcase oil I'm going to be using, and you just put them in and alternate your fibers with your metals. All right, and then our last fiber. And let's get the pressure plate back on. All right, so putting the pressure plate back on. Check again for grooves in here. There's some shiny spots, but there's no grooves, so we're good. We put this back on. Putting these bolts on. Now, this is what people get nervous about. When you're putting these on, it's a very light torque spec on these. All right, it's like 7 foot-pounds, which is, I think, like 88 inch-pounds. So if you're new to this game, you want to get an inch-pound torque wrench, and don't buy a cheap one. Get a good inch-pound torque wrench and tighten them in with crosshatch patterns, and you'll be good. If you don't have a torque wrench, just use a 1/4 inch ratchet wrench and make them tight, and just don't over-tight them. 7 foot-pounds is very little. All right, so I just took a little copper washer for 7 foot-pounds. I just drop it in there in between the gears, so when this turns, it locks into place. All right. Alright, so we're good. This is double check them. Now these are all set at 7 foot-pounds. Which is 7 is like 84 inch-pounds, so we're good to go. Alright guys, so that's all for the clutch. Clutch is changed out. I'm waiting on parts of this, so I'm going to button this back up and get it out of the shop so I can work on something else. But hopefully this helps you out and shows you what you got to do to change out these clutches. Real simple. Doesn't take much time at all. Please hit the like button, subscribe, hit the bell for the notifications, guys. Until next time, this is TEPCO Cycle Repair. Alright guys, so I finally got my parts in. I'm going to finish this one outside because it's a pain to get into the shop. But got my new bearing here. So what I'm going to do here is just knock the bearing in. I'm going to use a socket that's equal to the size of the outside diameter so I can knock it in nice and easy. And then what I'm going to do first is put a little bit of oil in the bearing itself, just so it's never going to spin dry. Then we're going to place it up in there. This one just about slides into place on its own. But we're going to give it a couple taps just to make sure it's seated fully. And it is. Alright, so that's ready. So let's go back inside the shop and get the outer cover built all up with the water pump. Alright guys, so here we have the pump. Alright, we have our new Honda seals. We have our all of our new gaskets. All right, all the gaskets here. Remember, you need 2 of these. This one goes in the center. We have our new pump. All right, we have the old one that has the washers. Don't forget, you have one here that goes right up against that new bearing we just put in, and then you have another one in here inside the propeller right there. Okay, the pump itself. All right, so let's get this all taken apart. All right, with these here, just going to discard that. We're going to clean up all this gasket surface. Somebody put sealer in there. Make sure you get all this stuff cleaned up before you put your new gaskets in, or else it won't give it a good surface to sit against and seal. Alright, so to get these seals out here, make sure you pay attention to the direction they're in. So this one here is the larger one. There's a larger one and a smaller one. So we have our larger one here. So this one, they're directional. So you have like an open side here, closed side. Alright, the first one's going in like this. So I'm going to take these out with a, I got a seal remover. But you can use, you know, a screwdriver or something. Just don't damage any of these edges right here when you're doing it. So make sure you get in there. This works really good if you get one of these. Just get in there and all right, so there's one. And you can see the other one is the opposite. So you're going to have one that sits like this. All right. And then the other one, which is the smaller one, that's going to sit like that. So these two faces right here are going to face each other. And so it should be sitting in there like that. All right, so straight in there. And then we have the bearing on the other side. But now we have to get this one out, this seal out right here. I'm on a good surface here. So what I'll do is I'll tap the bearing out first, because I have some, you can flex the seal a little bit. All right, so with the bearing out, makes it much easier to knock that seal out. All right, so here's our bearing. This bearing was toast also. So now we have the seal right here we'll be able to get out. And if you look at it, all right, it's got to go out that way, so you're not able to pry it out. All right, so now that we have the seal and bearing out at the inside, we're going to put those back in. So I have a brand new seal right here. All right, so the first seal here is the smaller one. We're going to just drop that in there. Then we're going to use a socket or something that's equal diameter. We're going to knock that in. until it's fully seated. That looks good. I'm going to drop the new bearing in and grab that. Alright, so I got this on a piece of wood now because the bearing may need a little bit more force, so I don't want to bang it with the clutch cover down on the ground. So we're going to set this up here. Actually, this one is just about pushing in on its own. So let's knock it in with same thing, a socket equal size. Has the outside diameter. You never want to push it on the inside, always on the outside. And you can hear that bottom out. That's good there. Let's flip it back over again. I'm going to do the other seal here. Remember, this one is facing the opposite way of that one. Alright, so when that's seated all the way in, we got to get to our water pump. Alright, so now we got the brand new pump, so we're going to flip the cover over. We got the assembly lube on there. I just put a little bit of assembly lube. I'm going to slip it down in here. Just be nice and gentle and do it slowly so that it goes through the rubber seals nice and easy. Alright, and there we are in there. So don't forget, at this point here, we're going to have to torque on the water pump. The water pump has a copper washer. Don't forget that. Put that on there. Then we're going to have our water pump here. And this is going to get torqued down to 108 inch-pounds. Alright, so we're going to hold the back with an 8mm. It's got the grooves in there that we're able to grab it. Then 10mm on the top. Alright, everything looks good. So you see it'll have a little bit of play here. Alright, see that right there? So if you push it in this way, it should be silent. If you pull it out, you may hear a little bit here. But we're not worried about that because when we have the washer in here, the distance and clearance and everything is going to hold it away and it'll be fine. Alright, so with that in there, everything's nice and smooth. So let's put our new gaskets on here. Alright, so with these gaskets, the Honda gaskets is a rubber seal. They can only go on one way. So the rubber seal goes the same direction on both of them. Can only fit on that way. So we have that. Alright, there we go. Let's get this cleaned up here. Any residual stuff sealing on there, let's get that all cleaned up. Now I have a piece of 400 grit sandpaper on a flat piece of steel over there, and I like to resurface this. See the low points right there? You want to try to get those nice and flat so you don't have any leaking issues. All right, with that all good, we're going to drop this back on. Two 8mm on here. Alright, and these are going to 7 foot-pounds, 84 inch-pounds. And the propeller was 9 foot-pounds if you got a foot-pound. But usually anything under 20, I convert it to inches. I just feel more comfortable that way. So the two long ones are going to be 9 foot-pounds. Alright, so any of the long ones going into the crankcase are 9 foot-pounds, and any of these smaller ones, like this clutch cover right here, would be 7. Alright, let's go mount it back up. before we go out there, because there's somebody mowing next door, this copper gasket goes right there, the washer. Don't forget that one, okay? So I'm going to put a little bit of grease on it just so it doesn't get lost and fall out when I'm holding it up in there. And then we'll go mount this all up. Got a new gasket for here, so make sure you have a new gasket for the outside here whenever you're pulling this outside, because you don't want to have to go back in and pull it all apart again just because you got a leaking old gasket you used. All right, so we got the new gasket on here. Make sure you transfer all the guide pins to the case so that everything slides on easier. I got the washer sitting right here so that we make sure that that is stuck on there. I got some assembly lube, helps hold it in place. So I'm going to go ahead and mount this back up in there. If it doesn't slide right in, okay, your pump gears aren't lined up. There's a couple things you can do for that. You can put it in gear and rotate the wheel. All right, or you can rotate the pump or the gear a little bit at a time until you get it in. There you go, it's in gear, now it's just dropped into place. All right, so with the case on here, we're going to go ahead and put the all the bolts back in and torque them in. Make sure you pay attention to your service manual, make sure what the torque specs are for that specific model. Here we got the drain for the water pump. Put our water coolant lines back on. At this point, guys, we're just going to fill it up back up with water and oil. Make sure you purge the system, get all the air out. Make sure you put the right quantity of oil in there. You guys are good to go. Hopefully this helps you out, guys. Water pump, clutch, CR125, 1999. Please hit the like button, subscribe, hit the bell for the notifications, guys. Until next time, this is Tepco Cycle Repair.